Hello, this is Joe Peters. Welcome to another episode of MOMFIT with Joe Peters. And also welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the H.E.R Network on single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Single TV app in the respective app stores, iOS and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure to leave a comment. The app is free. Singo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all the smart TVs since 2016. And if you are here is because you are a mom to be, a new mom, or a mom of a lot of kids, and you want to find the easiest, best way to be a mom and also thrive as a soul. So the purpose of this show is helping you to win the marathon of motherhood without burnout, so you can create your unicorn life. And if you are not following me yet, please go under my picture. You see the handle at Joe Unicorn Coach. You can go there in Instagram, in Facebook, and follow me. I handle my own social media. So if you have a question, if you have a challenge, if you have a problem, if you are struggling, you don't have to do it alone. There is a saying that says there is a village, and I want to be your village. So send me a message, tell me what is going on, and if I cannot point you in the right direction, I will find an expert like Lisa that will come here and help us to figure out what is the easiest, fastest way to do this. I am super, super excited to have Lisa here with me. I met Lisa last year, and she is one of those people that had the most amazing energy and is doing so much good in the world. So I am completely sure that we're going to have a lot of fun in this show. And one of the things that I love about Lisa is the phrase that she live and love. And that is, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it is what you do with it, what it
Mhm.
matters. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that um, later on. That Lisa is a wealth activator, and she is the CEO and the founder of iDay Money. She's been in finance and insurance industry since 1987, and then her unconventional money multiplier system has transformed her money relationship to the point that she is a self-made millionaire, and then retired 2.5 years early, pay 100K months in debt in set 6 months, and relocate with her beautiful partner to their dream home at the beach. So Lisa, thank you so much for being here with us. It's going to talk a little bit about your story. We're going to be talking about money and moms today, and what is the deal with money and financial abundance for moms. So I want you to tell us a little bit first why that phrase is your favorite phrase, but then second, how do you end working and doing this work around the world with money mindset and helping people with iDay money?
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. It's great to connect with you again. I love the you look so beautiful with your background and all that. I just have to say it, beautiful. So yeah, I got started in finance and insurance in 1987, and I just had a love for money. I started dating money. I had money was my imaginary friend when I was a little girl, and I came from like a rich to rags story because my parents were entrepreneurs. They were married, and then they got divorced, and my dad lived on the rich side of the city and my mom lived on the poor side, and she was always complaining about money. And one of the things I've learned, being in the industry for so long, is that no matter how much money people have, they worry that there's never enough. Will there be enough? I mean, I've talked to multimillionaires and they're like conservative about using their money for the things that they love, and they could be like in their 60s and 70s and still be concerned. And it's like, hey, you have an expiration date. If you don't enjoy your money, your kids will. So that's where it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's what you do with it, because a lot of times, even if you have $1 and you invest it, if you invest 10% of it, and you still have 90% to do whatever you want with it. And just think that 10% of an investment, saving it, even in a interest savings account, right? The most conservative way to save money. It's still going to multiply for you. And if you continuously do that, you're going to build wealth and become a millionaire. So with me, I mean, I worked at the government for 30 years and I built this using the money multiplier system. I was able to build the wealth by creating money buckets. And money buckets are basically separate accounts dedicated for specific goals. And as a mom of three kids, I mean, I became a single mom at 18 years old. Money was scarce. Like, you got a growing kid, and it's like, I can't afford to clothe you. Stop growing. You buy outfits, and the next week, what do you mean your pants are too short? So, and then of course I had boys, and boys eat us out of house and home. So it gets more expensive as they get older. And it's just like, okay, how can I strategically align my finances to support the growing family and still have fun with my money? So we dated money and we set up these money buckets. And that's where the phrase comes from. And that's how I've lived the life for the last 35 years or so.
I love that, and I love the story of how money can be scary, especially if you are a single mom. Um, and I also love from what you were saying that it's not rocket science, right? Like sometimes we have this taboo that being wealthy and accumulating wealth is just for a few and is too complicated. But I love how you put it very simple is if you are organized and do these things, eventually you will get wealthy. It's just that we need to get over that initial paradigm and fear of our relationship with money. So let's going to talk a little bit about that, what you are being seeing and learning as a mom and also as a coach of so many into what are some of those not healthy beliefs and fears that we have around money. And I think that's something that I love about working on this topic with moms is that when a mom heal and fix that, they are not only healing it for themselves, but they are healing it for all the generations
Mhm.
after that because they're healing it for their kids, and then their kids are going to grow up with any of that and going to have a lot more chance of having a healthy relationship with money since the beginning. So what are some of those that you are seeing that are not healthy but are constant or common, especially with moms around money?
I would say like the number one thing that I see, especially with moms with kids in sports, is that they put themselves last and they pour all of their resources into these kids, into their sports, into their travel. I mean, they don't even have a life for themselves. They don't even know what me time is. And it's like, wait a minute. Why are you doing all this stuff? Like, we think we're doing so great for our children by doing this, but in actuality, we're just putting ourselves on the back burner, and then we cop an attitude. Like, I did this myself, and when my youngest was 14, he's now 26, I went on strike. I got really ticked off because here I am, like working full time. I had three side gigs because I didn't feel like there was never enough money. Like all these kids are in sports and scouts and birthday parties, and I'm like, why do kids have birthday parties every year? Like, do you have to have so many friends? It's like every weekend I was spending $150 on birthday presents for kids I didn't even know. And so I would work to make more money to be able to spend on them. And I was neglecting myself. So there's no me time. So at 14, I went on strike. I said, you know what? That's it. I'm done. I'm going to go get my nails done. And it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. And they were like looking at me like I had three heads, with two eyes, four eyes. And they're like, what do you mean you're going to go get your nails done? I'm like, yeah, that's right. And I started treating myself once a month to getting my nails done. And I felt so guilty, and it was just like, okay, where's the cheapest place I can go? And do I have to leave a tip? And it was just like parting with the money for myself was it was like pulling teeth. And I noticed working with moms, like, when we set up the money multiplier system, um, with my VIP clients, the first thing we do is create a wealth activation roadmap. And I say, okay, the formula is 10% to invest or save, 10% to give away, and 10% for fun money. And they're okay with the 10% savings, and the 10% giveaway, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can do that, right? Can I give it to my kids?" Well, do you think your kids are charity?" And some of these are adult kids, right? And they're living on their own. And then when it comes to 10% fun money, there's like, oh, there's no way I'm spending 10% fun money on myself. And it's just like, okay, well, let's work through that. And I'm a certified aromatherapy practitioner, and so we use a scent of essential oils to help break through those belief patterns that have been conditioned in us since day one. I mean, I grew up in a Catholic Italian family. I was the only girl. I have 3 older brothers. My job was to serve. So I became a very good people pleaser. And I know a lot of moms out there can relate to this. It's like you're the first one to get up to clear the dishes, to cook the dinner, and to serve everybody around you. And then yourself, like, you eat last, right? You don't even sit down to eat. I still stand up to eat these days. You know? So I think that is probably, that, and the fact that when they believe they don't have enough money, they use charge cards, and then the debt rolls in, and then all of a sudden they have all this money on a charge card, and they're like, "Oh my, how did it get to be so much?" I had clients coming to work with me and they have 60, $70,000 worth of debt. And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's manageable." And they're like, "What do you mean it's manageable? Like, it's driving me crazy. I feel like I have a limestone boulder on my shoulders and I'm buried and I can't get out and I don't know any way out." But when we stop and think about how did that debt come about and why are we using, debt is borrowing from your future self. So why do you find it necessary to do that? And when you can stop and think about what your motive is behind your spending, and then you can create a plan, you'll be successful. And it is that simple.
And I totally agree with you. And it's funny because it is almost this brainwash, right?
Mhm,
That spending on you is selfish. That how, like, I love what you said, like the nails, but then I think that they are like steps, right? And one of the message that I hear you to say is it's okay to be in any stage. So either if you are like Lisa was before, not spending any money, or you are like those moms that are like, can I give it to my kids?
mhm,
And fun money can be just buy tickets for my grandkids to go to Christmas. Is one stage. Then the next one is saying, okay, enough is enough. I'm gonna go to the nails and make my own nails. But then is how I can do it in the most cheap way. And do I have to, like you say, like how much I'm gonna tip? I'm gonna tip the minimum 10%, 5%. And then I think that gets to the point that you are like, no, I deserve to have this and I deserve to go there. I think that one story funny with me on the nails was a few years ago. I was upgrading and then I get like, I don't enjoy coming to my nails on like this cheap salons that are noisy and are not beautiful and have things on their walls. So I make it a point to find a nail salon that make me feel fancy and abundant and fun. And the reality was, I think that was only like $10 or $15 more.
mhm,
But how I felt when I sit there, I felt like a freaking $1 million. And it was beautiful and it smelled good. And they give me a glass of wine and they asked me if I want sparkling water. They were totally worth it, the additional $10 for
mhm,
making me feel like that. So I think that it's important that one of the things that you did that is a mic drop, I want you to expand on it, is because I think that that is a very United States circumstance of that debt with credit cards. And
mhm,
I love how you put it into you are just borrowing from your future self.
mhm,
So let's gonna expand a little bit into that and what that means and how it's important that we start seeing that like that. Like when you are running that credit card, you are actually borrowing from your future self.
mhm. Yeah, so a lot of people, we've normalized debt. I mean, I remember when my oldest, who's now 38, was 17 years old. A credit card came in the mail for him, and I was just like, "What? What is this? He can't have a credit card. No, we don't want to have any messes with credit card." And just to go give you a little bit of the backstory, when I was 22, I had to file for bankruptcy. So I was a bankruptcy paralegal, and I was creating budgets for people who are coming out of bankruptcy so that they would have something to follow. They'd have a plan and they wouldn't end up in debt again. And what we found is that if people don't have a plan, they plan to fail. That 90% of the people who pay off their credit card debt or any kind of debt 2.5 years later, they'll have double the debt. So what happens is we go back and forth with this debt and think, oh well, it's okay. Everybody's doing it. Like I need to pay my bills in order to survive. And this happened with the pandemic. Like a lot of people lost their jobs. They didn't have the income and they were literally using credit cards to pay their rent. And now that we're back to normal, if there can ever be a normal, they're still using these credit cards. So you get into this habit. And like I have clients that come into work with me and they're like, well, what I'm doing is earning points and I'm using these points to make money. And I'm like, okay, but are you paying off the credit card every single month? Well, no. And then you got you could get late fees, you got the interest charges, which are outrageous, especially at 29%. So I'm like, so you continue to borrow from your future self to pay your current bills. So what are you doing with the money that you have? Well, it's going it's I don't have enough. I just need to make more money. I'm like, "Okay, so if you made more money, how much is that money valued at that you need to make in order to cover what you think is a wealthy lifestyle?" Because wealth means something different for every of us. And they're like, "Well, if I could just make another $10,000, or 15 or $20,000." And it's like, "Okay, but guess what? It doesn't work that way." So, like, at 22, I was bankrupt. I had $32,000 worth of debt, which is equivalent to, like, 70 to 80,000 in today's dollars. And I went in front of the judge. I filed bankruptcy. I stood in front of that judge, and he said, "Wow, you are so young. How did you get here?" I go, "Well, it's a long story, but I'm here." And he's like, "Okay, promise me that you'll learn everything about finances and never be in this position again." So I promised. So I was debt free from 22 until around my 40s. And my husband tells me I committed financial infidelity because I racked up all this debt without him knowing it, and it was like a midlife crisis. I was self-sabotaging because I felt horrible. I didn't feel good about myself because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was so busy pouring into everybody else. I was exhausted. So I would overeat, overdrink, overspend. Well, I believed, because I set all of my money buckets up, like, and I took all my money away from me because I believed that money burned a hole in my pocket. So if money burns a hole in my pocket, therefore I can't have it. So if I take it away from myself and set it up automatically and pay all my bills and set aside money, like, for everybody else but me, then I'll have money. And so, like, I would have my investments working and all that in the background, but I wouldn't pay attention. So when I got these 0% credit card offers, which are very popular in the United States, I was like, wow, I can borrow money at 0% and do whatever I want. This is so cool. And I had this thought in my head that I'll pay the money back. It won't be a problem. Got 12 months, 15 months, however many months, right? Well, it's addictive. I like literally was addicted to this. And I would keep using the credit cards. I would take my cash and then I would do things like experiences, like trips to like we go to Hershey Park, whatever the kids wanted. I would like, let's go. I got the cash. Meanwhile, I'm using the credit cards to get points, to pay for the groceries and, whatever else, the clothes and things of that nature. And before you know it, they got so racked up. And it was devastating. It's just like, I know how to do this. I know how to set up a budget. What is wrong? It had nothing to do with my ability to manage the money. It had my thoughts around the money. My conscious and subconscious were so out of alignment that I couldn't stop myself from not spending. It's like that alcoholic who wants to drink and they know that they need to stop because it's not healthy for them, but they continue to do it. Or even the person who's addicted to their workouts at the gym. They know working out 7 days a week is not good for their body, but they continue to do it. And this is what I did with credit cards. And I see a lot of my clients do this as well, especially if there's a loss or there's an illness in the family, and you get a big bill. Like a lot of people don't carry health insurance, and please get health insurance. Um, but what happens is you get a big bill, you unexpected surgery, $50,000, and they want their money, and they don't tell you that you can finance it interest free and take as long as you want to pay it back. But they make you believe that you need to go charge it. So people will go into medical debt. And it's like, no, stop. You don't need to borrow from yourself, your future self, to pay for this current bill. There's a way around it. And it's just asking yourself, like, there's a 24-hour rule. Do I really need to use this credit card for this thing? And when you ask yourself, like you say to your future self, like, "How is this gonna serve us? Like, what's the purpose of it?" And I mean, I love 0% credit cards, I still use them. I pay off all my credit cards in 30 days. As soon as the bill comes, the bill is paid in full, but I get these points, and that's fun too because I just got it. I got everything set up on my app, and I just got a message the other day that said, "Oh, we deposited $138.92 in your fund money account." And I'm like, "Why? Where did that money come from?" So I'm like, "Why did they send me $138?" So I go in, and I had invested in a nutrition program, and I got points for it, and they automatically deposited the cash into my fund money account. Apparently, I had set that up someday. Well, I don't remember doing it, and I thought, "That is so cool. I have $138 extra fund money this month that I get to spend, and it makes me feel good." And so when we look at debt, we can look at it strategically and say it doesn't have to be a negative thing. We don't have to see it as everybody else is doing it, but if we can leverage it to our advantage and have a relationship with it so that we can pay it off, that's what's going to help us say, okay, sure, future self, we're going to borrow money, but this is the game plan. I'm going to treat you like cash, and I'm going to pay this back in that 30 days. I'm going to get those points, and this is what I'm going to do with those points. I'm going to buy whatever. I have a client who buys purses. She loves purses, so that's what she does with her fun money. I go experience stuff. So
And I love that because it's so good. I get so irritated when I see some of these male gurus that says cut, and I see people cutting their credit cards and say, I'm gonna pay cash. I'm like, the problem is not the credit. The problem is your relationship with it. The credit is there if you know the game, like you were saying, and the strategy. You could do a lot of things with that credit and then play with the bank money instead of your bank. Like you were saying, I just did it with a 12-month 0%. I was getting into a gym, and I love the gym, but I'm still accumulator. I'm still like very kind of cheap into like, oh, is that a lot of money? The 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 monthly fee was like $160. I was like, that is a lot for a gym. But then they were like, oh, if you pay full for 12 months, we give you this discount and this discount and this discount, and end being almost is almost like $108. So I save $50 every month. So what I did was I put it, I get out a credit card of 12 months, put it in that credit card, and I'm still paying monthly
right.
that fee, but I'm using it. So one of the things that I learned from my dad was never pay interest to the bank. So it's how you start playing that to your advantage. I love the idea of the bonus points, and I love how start becoming a surprise. So with all of that we are saying, that you have, that I have, if we have moms that right now are like you were before, $100,000, $200,000, completely addicted to, because this is something that I would love your opinion before we go to what they can do. And it breaks my heart because I think that society is getting into this hamster wheel, and sometimes there are even other moms. I can see, for example, my toddler is only 3 years old, and there are a lot of these um, premium bamboo PJs that make their business based on fear of missing out. So the new strategy is we make a launch, and then when it's sold out, you lose and you will never have it again. And you have these moms literally getting in debt every week because of fear of missing out, because I need to have it. There are moms that are even buying for children that they don't have yet. But is that power of missing out, of when you are like, oh, I don't want to be the one missing out. So it is sad, and I think that we have a lot of sides pushing
Mhm.
us into that concept of debt, because the reality is good for them. It's good
Mhm.
for the banks. It's good for the people that are charging you 25% interest. So from all sizes, you have that. So what do you think about that part of the society, of that fear of missing out, and for us females to buy emotionally and to buy because if I don't buy it now, I will never have it again, and how we can start seeing that in a more supportive way that will not get us in trouble.
Mhm. FOMO is huge, right? And I think marketers do an excellent job playing on that. And I always like to say, fear, we're only born with two fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Everything else is learned fear, and it can be unlearned. And when we think about, like, buying things before we even have the kids, it's funny that I got a flashback when I was 11 years old. I had a friend named Michelle, and we used to go thrifting. We used to go to the Salvation Army store, and she was buying baby clothes. I said, "Well, what are you buying baby clothes for?" She goes, "Well, I'm going to fill up my hope chest." I go, "You're what?" "I'm going to fill up my hope chest. So when I have kids, I have clothes ready." And I'm like, "We're 11 years old. What are you talking about?" So, it's planning too far in advance is really, styles change, guys. But when you think about, when somebody says, I mean, that's a marketing line. When somebody says it's scarcity, there's never going to be it again. First of all, there's people who are buying that stuff and then reselling it to make a profit themselves. Or that's a business, model. And so when you think about it, like, really, like, will I use this? So we have a pause method. We have a non-negotiable step that we do in my wealth accelerator, and it's the pause method. And it's like, okay, if I get this thing, how likely am I going to use it? And we look at the cost price factor. So the cost price factor is like, if this thing's going to cost you $100, how many times are you going to use it and then divide that to get its actual value? So, like, I remember I bought this beautiful dress to go on my honeymoon, and I went shopping with my mother-in-law, who was beautifully, I mean, just well put together, and she brought me to this fancy store. Never. I mean, I'm coming off of being a single mom. I was, like, just starting to make money. I was, like, not spending any money on myself. We walk in, and these salespeople are just bringing me clothes, and I'm trying all these beautiful clothes that were like 150, $200 dresses, which is equivalent to like seven, $800 today. And I'm like, I can't afford this. And my mom looked at me. She's like, "Yes, you can, and you will buy this dress. I still own this dress today, and I can still wear it. It is absolutely beautiful, black, like, and it, like you said about the salon, it made me feel like $1,000,000. And when I put, no matter how much weight I gained, this dress looked fabulous on me, and it still does after all these years, right? And when you think about, like, that value, that 100, it was $150 back then, it probably cost me pennies as many times as I've worn it, and the way that it felt, I mean, absolutely priceless, right? The way I feel in it. And so when we think about those purchases, if we can just pause and say, "Really? I don't have any kids. Do I need to buy this stuff?" And we gotta think, like, I have a money archetype quiz, and we have 7 different personalities, and one of them is Harry the Hoarder, and there's people are shocked when they come up as Harry the Hoarder. And it's just like, you hold on to this stuff, what for? My client and I were talking about it. We're cleaning out our houses, right? Like, we moved to our beach house 2.5 years ago after living in the same house for 30 years. We had my mom's stuff, his mom's stuff, the boyfriend stuff, the kids' stuff, plus our own. In 8 weeks, we had to clean it all out. Do you know how challenging that was to clean out 30 years worth of stuff? You're talking bins upon bins. Like, ladies, go look in your storage areas, go look in your closets. You probably got a lot of stuff. You probably got stuff hanging on there with tags. Like, why are we buying this stuff to store it? Because we might use it, but then, like, if you're doing it for the future, just stop, okay? Because what's gonna happen? You're gonna have this baby, and then you're gonna open up this thing that you bought 7 years ago, and it's gonna be out of style, and you're gonna be like, or your kid's gonna rebel and say, "I'm not wearing that, forget it. I don't like that," or it's uncomfortable, or or whatever. And, or it'll get stained because it wasn't stored properly, and there's so many things that can happen to stuff. So I always like, when we think about purchasing services, products, what's the reason behind it, and how is it going to benefit you in the future? And really, like, we talk about our ROI, like, how is this going to provide ROI for you? And we can do this with non-business items every single day. Like, they always say, raising kids don't care about the money. They want your value time. They want you in your moment, in your presence. They don't want you working, and they'd rather have you crawling on the ground and playing, tea with them, rather than sitting in front of a computer talking all day, ordering stuff.
Absolutely. And so with all that said, now the question is, if we have moms around the world that are like you, with 70, 80, $100,000 in debt, and I know that that is a long work, and the base thing is go and find you and work with you, how they can start moving in that direction, how they can start healing their relationship with money, how they can start taking action today into baby steps. Because I don't know if you feel like that when you are having a debt, but one of the things that make us put our head under the sand is that we feel that is such a huge mountain to climb that we almost feel hopeless into, oh my
Mhm.
God, I will never be able to. So what would be some of those first easy steps that they can take so they can start taking that momentum, and then with that momentum go and say, hey Lisa, I'm ready to work with you, let's do this.
I love debt worksheet. The I love debt worksheet takes all of your debt and look at it and celebrate it. Using art, creative, drawing, whatever, and looking and say, okay, what did I do with this money? And drawing it out in objects or writing it out and saying, okay, I paid for education, I went on a trip, I did this and that. And when you can see what you actually did with your debt, it gives you that sense of satisfaction and like, oh, I'm not bad with money. I actually did good things with my debt. And so when you look at it, when you take your debt, you order it from smallest to largest, the minimum, you look at the minimum monthly payments, and then you start with that smaller debt. This is called the snowball effect. And when you can tackle the small debt first, it's going to give you that momentum. But if you're able to take 20% of your income, minimum is what I recommend, and use it towards that debt. So say you owe $500 to Discover and the minimum monthly payment is $25. You take that $25 plus 20% of your income and you pay every month you pay it while you're paying the minimum payments on the other. And before you know it, you'll have that money. But what I like to say, like we love to shop, it's an emotional, it hits the dopamine and all that, it rises all that. It gives us a feeling, right? We can do the same thing with saving and with debt. So when my clients implement my money multiplier system, we're paying down our debt and enjoying our money and saving and giving all simultaneously. It's not all or nothing. I hear so many clients and people on the internet say, when I get money, I'm going to pay off all my debt. No, please don't do that because you're just going to end up racking it back up again. It's proven facts. Okay. And you don't when you do that, you're in this chasing money, okay? And money wants to be loved and respected. Just think about it as a relationship. If you took all of your money and put it towards debt, money's going to be like, "What? We're not going to do anything else?" It's like serving the same meal to your kids every single day. They're going to be like, "What? This again?" Like, stop it. You have to have that balance. And when you just use these percentages, you can start tackling that debt one step at a time. And as soon as you pay off that smallest debt, the secret is not to use that credit card while you're paying off the rest of the debt because do you truly want to be debt free? So asking yourself, so I always say the best thing to do is start with, dear money, you suck, but I love you anyways. And just let your heart tell you what you want to tell money as if money was a person. And it's such a release, it creates such a release, and then go into gratitude, like, gratitude is the epiphany of everything that we do, it changes our hearts. I know it's one of our non-negotiables in the Wealth Accelerator. Every single day, we give thanks for 10 things and why we're thankful for them, not just it's not a laundry list. But when you can be really thankful for your debt and say, "You know what? I wanna pay you off because I wanna start leveraging you, and we're gonna start making money together. So, what can I do to pay this debt off quicker?" And that's one of the reasons why I had 3 side gigs is because I was using all my side gigs to pay off all my debt, and it was, able to as I was, leveraging it, building up savings, earning these cash points, I'd get 125, $130 in points, be like, "Cool, put that towards the debt, and let's see how fast," like, make a goal, like, "Okay, the first 3 small credit cards total 3,000. If you look back 90 days, do you have an extra $3,000 in your budget? Yeah, you do, because you probably went to dinner, you went to Starbucks, you took the kids for ice cream. You have extra money. It's just that you don't know because you've never written it down. You haven't paid attention to it. And even if you do have it written down, you're still ignoring it. So it's almost like that one night stand or that's, hey, come over for dinner and then I don't talk to you for weeks. That's kind of what we're doing with our money and our debt. So if you can get into the position where you can just make that list, write that letter, give thanks for it, and then just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to give myself 3 weeks to pay off that $500. How can I do it? Look around your house, you know that stuff that you're hoarding on? Sell it. Use that money to pay down that debt and give yourself that dopamine hit, and it becomes a game. You can make it a challenge, and it actually becomes fun, and that's very addicting too.
And I love how that, because one of the things that I know with my clients is not just saying this is not helping you, this is not working, stop doing it. That is what a lot of coaches do. But I love how you say, like, hey, chopping emotionally is not helping, is not working, but it gives you a dopamine rush.
Mhm.
So this is what you can replace it with that will give you the same dopamine. So then we have a lot more chances to do it because we are still having that dopamine thing. And I love that part of the gratitude. One of the things that I do, that I don't remember who I learned it from, but I learned it from somebody, is changing the attitude of when I'm paying bills. I
Mhm.
think that one of them was Gabby Bernstein, now that I'm thinking about it. But it's usually, especially when we are not having a lot of cash flow, another bill to pay, and then we do it with like that bad feeling and almost like stress and wishing that we were not going to pay the bill, and then having that gratitude of just actually saying, oh, thank you, I have the money to pay this bill, thank you, I have the way to, even if it's dead, even if you're doing it, thank you that I'm able to borrow my future self. I love that you said, to pay the energy, to pay the heat, to buy food. So instead of making it something that is not fun, then we are being into that flow. Because I want to hear your opinion on this. Is money just a flow? Like,
Mhm.
sometimes they're like, oh, I want to hold. But a lot of the times I tell people, like, yeah, how holding your breath will work for you if you try to hold it for more than maybe a minute. Like,
Right.
you need to exhale, you need to give. And I think that that is where we get into that part of balancing, because the other thing is right. If you just exhale, there is a point that you need to inhale, and I think that that is the balance that sometimes we need into expanding and saving. And I love how you touch that, because I'm big into that, breaking that all or nothing mentality that we are so used to it since we were little girls, into I'm either saving everything and I am eating tuna for 5 months and nothing else, or I am just full of my credit cards spending everything, and breaking that and saying there is so much more between those two extremes. That is where we actually can thrive.
Mhm.
Um, so on that one, how would be a perspective and a way to start managing that money without going into that all or nothing that you were saying before, into like, and I love this because when I meet you, you asked me this. You said, like, why will you tell money if money was a person? And you say it again. So what is some of those ways that we can start treating money as a person, and how we can start managing that relationship in a healthier, easier way?
Mhm. Pay attention. You know, and in any relationship, when you're focused on it, it's going to grow, it's going to expand. And when you think about meeting somebody for the first time, you know, how do you have those baby steps? So if you think about speed dating, right? You like go through, you swipe through the pictures, you're like, oh, I kind of like their style, their look. Oh, their description's really cool. Okay, cool. Let's go have coffee. So then you sit down with money and you have coffee and you're like, okay, like what's the next steps? And then when you build your relationship, you start planning dates, right? You know, like even with girlfriends, like, oh yeah, like, you know, let's take the families, let's go to the park, let's do this, let's do that, let's have a play date, let's, you know, picnics, whatever. It's the same concept with money. So what you're doing is you're setting up your goals and you're looking and saying, okay, what do I really want to do? So a lot of, you know, moms will say, all right, if I had $5,000 a month coming in, this is what I'm going to do with it, and reverse engineer it. Like, you know, we talk about budgeting. So, you know, this is the beginning of the month. So, what's your budget for the month, right? And then spend every dollar. And then when the dollars come in, you're like, oh, okay, this amount goes here, this amount goes here. And, you know, we call them money bucket or goals, right? I like to, these are part of my money bucket. So, we just got back home from a Viking cruise. We did the Grand European tour. We were gone for 15 days. So we planned that last September. There was a dollar amount. How much money are we spending? How much it's going to cost? Da, da, da. We created a money bucket for it. And we knew when we had to pay it off. And so we started adding to that money bucket and saying, okay, this is for that. I have a client who's saving to go to one of the championship ball games. It's like 4 years from now, but they know that they want to do that. So some people will go a 5-year plan, some will do a 12-month. I like 12 months because you can figure out like 12 months from now, I want to go take my kids to Europe. I want to go to Disney or whatever. I have a client who took her kids to Disney, promised them for years that they would go and never afforded it. So when we started working together, she created a bucket for it. And not only did she hit all of her goals, but she was able to take her kids to Disney. And that was huge because this is something that she kept promising them, and then it felt unreachable. And all of a sudden, all she did was make a plan. We call it the wealth activation roadmap. And we create little, some of my clients will actually draw a roadmap, and they'll have a car, and then they'll have little pit stops, and the pit stops will be what they're saving for, whether it be a trip to Disney or whatever they want to do. But everything's accounted for. So they have their bucket for their household bills. So there's four walls: our housing, transportation, clothing, and food. Those are our basic needs. We have to fill those buckets. But how much money you put in there, it's not a percentage. It's going to be a fixed amount. Like a family of four can spend around $1,200 a month on groceries, just food, right? We're not talking going out and all that. So when you stop and think about how am I utilizing my money? How am I actually spending it? And pretend that money's sitting there with you. And okay, money, let's have a chat. If you're married, you're going to grab your spouse. How can you do this? So then you set it up, you set the plans, you say, okay, we're going to spend, $500 a month on, utilities, $1,000 a month on food. Do we have enough money coming in? And if you don't have enough money coming in, you have two choices: decrease your expenses or increase your income. And most of the time, you can probably decrease your expenses because you're probably paying for stuff that you haven't used in 6 months, like subscriptions. So, really looking at it, most of us are just on autopilot. We're not paying attention. Everything is, I had somebody in one of my membership groups that never showed up. It took her a year to unsubscribe. For a whole year, she paid me and never came to the class. And I thought, okay, she wasn't paying attention, and she's in a class for money. So where was she? So it's really all about just mapping it out and looking at it. I recommend at least once a week, and saying, oh, I'm on track. I am doing what Money and I said we were going to do. We're in a partnership, we're in agreement, and this is how we're going to do it.
I love, love, love that. And I love how we can start because there is also another big thing, especially for people that grow up religious, and is the money is the beginning of all evil. So I love how you are saying it's not. And then you can have a good relationship, almost like a dating relationship with money, and can be partners. Lisa, thank you so much for being here with us today. I would love if you give us one last message to all the moms around the world that are watching us, what that message will be, and then also if they are ready to start working with you, if they want to do that roadmap, how they can find you.
Yeah. So I would say the best thing that you can do for yourself as a mom is to put yourself first. Take care of you and really indulge yourself in that 10% fun money. The rule about 10% fun money is that it's all for you. You get to enjoy what you want to do. So whether that's, nails, massage, float, go do you. Like, go take yourself out to dinner, get yourself, whatever, a nice outfit, whatever. But really, and if you can't do 10%, if you feel like that, you're not worthy, because that's bottom line is that's why we won't do it. Start off with $20. Do a $20 challenge. Take 20 bucks and go buy yourself something and see how it makes you feel and really reflect on it. And it's just for you. So that's my best advice is me time is so important. And the best way to get a hold of me is idatemoney.com. You can go there. There's a money dating game experience where you can meet the money partners, but there's also the money archetype quiz where you can get to know who you're like. There's all seven of the personalities are with us, but we have a driver. And who's driving you? Is it sell the spender like me? Harry the hoarder, like some of my clients, or maybe you're like money maverick, the money maker. So go find out who your archetype is.
So everybody go to I Day Money and connect with Lisa. I did the quiz and it's super fun, super easy to do. So go ahead and start healing that relationship with money, because you deserve and your family deserve to live a life where you feel abundant all the time. So thank you for joining us. I hope to see you again next Friday. Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Everybody, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Joy Unicorn Coach. Let me know how this resonate with you. What do you like? And what are you going to implement? And also remember that this show can be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.